Welcome back. Today we're going to discuss a cool little utility that we've got built into AzStudio and into our web services that'll really speed up your development. And this is our typed list concept. Now, this manager is under security, not under CAS, because it is such a sensitive plugin. Basically, it allows you to execute your own SQL or ad hoc SQL against your database. This isn't normally a great idea, except when you want to build really quick and easy to get lists of things. To configure this, all we do is hit select types and bring up the editor. Again, be careful who you give this access to, because you are allowed to execute queries in this context. Okay, so to set up a dictionary or a set of types that you'd like to return to the client service, it's pretty simple. You create a select name, which is the equivalent of a shortcut, a query that you'd like the system to execute at that time, and a list of columns that you want returned. These should be two columns, basically a dictionary of ID and name. Be careful here, because your ID and name columns must be in the result set from the query, and there doesn't need to be any spaces or anything that can kind of gotcha on this. But once you've set this up, that's all the configuration that is necessary. All right, so we're just going to take one of these built-in select types, let's say log severity types, and test it. We want to test it against a web service, so we're going to use our REST tester for this. There's a separate video on the REST tester and how it works, but basically it's a really easy way for us to in-app test not only the calls that we can do, but also do a basic load test against that service and make sure that it's responding in the way that you expect it to. In this tool, we're going to use the get typed list test, and we've already set it up for log severity types. This matches the shortcut name that you set up in the prior editor. Now, keep in mind, these REST tests assume that you've taken our default REST API, which is the All Services API, and have already deployed that and already have your environment set up. If you've done that, then basically all you have to do is call get endpoints, which gets the endpoint for that particular call, and then we'll make that call. And as you can see, it's coming back really nicely. But let's do a small load test on this and show that it's that's not only working, but it's returning the JSON we expect, and that it's responding in the time we expect it to. So to do that, we just go into load test. We're going to do 20 for 100 milliseconds between calls. And blam, we have all of our calls. We've loaded it. We've checked it. We can see what we've sent in, and we can see our response, which is the different severity types. Now, why do you do this this kind of call, and why is it so valuable? Well, instead of having a separate file sent out with your build on your website, or even separate localization files, you can use these typed lists to get dictionaries of things when your HTML client first boots. Things like the titles that your system supports, states that they support, countries that they support, whatever, those typical things that you want in drop downs or as user aids for your UIX and your form input. This makes it server driven, and it also makes it very easy to deploy it, because all you have to know is a shortcut name and one endpoint to get back the information you need. Then your client can cache that information. But if you ever need to make a change, a misspelling, a problem with a supported type no longer being supported by the system, or needs to be changed, or anything that you can think of with your data, now you have a single call. You've wired it up. You've got a single system, a single place to go put that information, and a single set of shortcuts to go get that information back at the client. Once you know it's working, well, heck, there's nothing else to code. There's just a number of shortcuts you set up. So your coder just goes, hey, I need a new list of, I don't know, suffixes for this particular equipment type. And you go, okay, well, we're going to call that, shortcut X, and you just go ahead and call that call you've been using for everything else, and this time pass in X. I'll get it set up and I'll test it, and I'll make sure it's working in all the environments with this tool, and once it is, I'll give you the thumbs up and you'll be ready to go. Thanks for listening.